Welcome back everyone. We'll quickly recap the fourth head of income, that is capital gains. So section 45. So capital gains provisions are contained from section 45. Starts from 45. 45 being the charging section tells any profits or gains arising from the transfer of capital asset by the assessee in the previous year is chargeable to tax in the respective year. Agree? So for an income to be taxed under the head capital gains, there should be a transfer plus of what? Capital asset when? In the previous year. Agree? Then they have defined what is capital asset, what is transfer in Income Tax Act. Capital asset has been defined in section 214. Capital asset means property of any kind held by the assessee and a securities held by FII, that is foreign institutional investor. But it does not include few assets. Which are those? Stock in trade, raw material and consumables, because when you sell this, it will be chargeable to tax under PGBP. Next, personal assets of movable nature held for personal purpose. But there are certain exceptions for this. That is, jewelry, archaeological collection, drawing, painting, sculpture work of art is a capital asset. So whatever is given in the bracket is a capital asset. Any asset other than this of personal nature which is movable is not a capital asset. Agriculture land not situated in specified area. So in simple, if I tell situated in rural area is not a capital asset. Next, any gold bonds or special bearer bonds issued by central government is not a capital asset. Then coming to transfer, in general terms, transfer means nothing but sale. But as per Income Tax Act, transfer includes few more items, that is sale, exchange or relinquishment, which relinquishment means surrendering of my right of capital asset. Exchange means I exchange my old phone with new phone by paying a small amount of money, that is called exchange. Then extinguishment, I have cancelled my right. I had a right in one of the property along with my brother. Now I am cancelling that right. Agree? Then compulsory acquisition under any law. If government authority compulsory acquire my property and if they pay compensation, even that is considered as transfer. Then if I convert my capital asset into stock, even that is a transfer. Then if I redeem of zero coupon bond by the company is also a capital asset. Then coming to computation, whenever I recognize an asset as a capital asset, I have to then categorize that into whether a long-term capital asset or short-term capital asset. If an asset is held for more than 12 months or 24 months or 36 months, the asset is told as long-term asset. And if you transfer long-term asset, you will be getting something called as long-term capital gains. Whereas if you transfer short-term capital asset, you will be getting short-term capital gain. Sir, for which asset it is 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, I have given it here in the table, you can observe. So when an asset, if it is held for more than 12 months, it is considered as long-term asset, means it is a listed securities, all three are covered, equity, preference and debt, on recognized stock exchange, unit of equity oriented fund or unit of UTI, Unit Trust of India, zero coupon bond. So for this three category of asset, it is 12 months guys. Next, 24 months categories for only two assets, that is unlisted shares, which includes both equity preference and land or building, which is considered as immovable property. For all other property, it is 36 months. 36 months. Agree? So sir, how to compute short-term capital gain? Format has been given. So you have to start with full value of sale consideration. From that, you have to reduce expenses on transfer. That is when you are selling any asset, if you have paid any brokerage, commission or anything like that, you can reduce. You will get net sale consideration. From that, reduce cost of acquisition and improvement. Sir, what is cost of acquisition? Is the amount which you have paid to purchase the asset. Whereas improvement is once you have purchased the asset, you have incurred some capital expenditure to improve the asset. Agree? So that is called improvement. So you can reduce both. You will get gross short-term capital gain, and if you invest this amount in a particular assets, new assets within a specified time, you can claim some exemptions. Short-term capital gain, you can claim exemption only under 4 section 54B, D, G, GA. Agree? Whereas all other sections is only for long term. Clear guys? So after claiming exemption, you will be getting taxable short-term capital gain. Then coming to how to compute long-term capital gain, same format, but only one thing will change is indexed cost of acquisition. See, long-term means I would have purchased some years back, 3 years, 5 years, 10, 15 years back. So whatever amount I have paid 5 or 10 years back might not be the same today. So we give something called as indexation benefit. That is, we have to adjust my cost of acquisition or improvement for cost inflation index. Cost inflation index. Clear? So we will get gross long-term capital gain. From that I can claim exemptions if I am reinvesting that amount, and for the balance taxable long-term capital gain I have to pay tax. If the question is silent with respect to exemptions, then straight away gross figure only you take it as taxable figure. Clear? Then year of chargeability. Normally capital gains is chargeable to tax in the year in which you have transferred, but there are certain exceptions for this. Agree? So where transfer has happened in 1 year, but you will be paying tax in some other year. That is some exceptions. So what are those exceptions? We will quickly see. Insurance compensation. So if your asset is destroyed and if you are receiving insurance compensation, even that is considered as transfer. So transfer has happened when your asset is destroyed. But when will you pay tax? When you actually receive insurance compensation. Agree? What will be the sale value? Whatever compensation you are received. Then if you convert your capital asset into stock, it is a transfer. But when will I pay tax on that? When you sell the stock. When you sell the stock, that will be actually taxable under PGBP. But whatever transfer has already happened by way of conversion, you have to pay tax on that also. Clear? So what will be the sale value in this case? The fair market value of the capital asset on the date of conversion. Then coming to, if there is any asset transferred from a partner or a member to partnership firm or AOP, in that case it is a transfer. So what is the sale value? The value at which the assets are recorded in the books is a sale value. Then distribution of capital asset by the firm. Now assets has been distributed by the partnership firm or AOP or BOI to its partner or member. In that case, is it a transfer? Yes. What is the sale value? Whatever the fair market value of that asset which is distributed is there, that is the sale value. Then if there is any compulsory acquisition of capital asset, whenever there is a compulsory acquisition, it is a transfer. But when will I pay tax on that? When you actually receive compensation. When you actually receive the first compensation. Your sale value will be compensation received. Then how to compute index cost of acquisition? Index cost of acquisition will come into picture only for long term assets, guys. Clear? And here I have to see when I have purchased the asset, because cost inflation index starts from the year 2001-2. That is the base year. If you have purchased something before that, then calculation is different. That is, take your actual cost or FMV as on 1st April 2001. This is the standard date for capital gains chapter. So you compare whichever is higher you will take. On that apply indexation. On that apply indexation. So how to apply indexation? We have to apply cost inflation index for respective year. Normally cost inflation index for the numerator year will be for our respective financial year, that is 2021, because normally transfer would have happened in 2021. Agree? And if the asset is purchased before 1st April 2001, the base year will be 1-2 only, always 100. Agree? So if the asset is acquired on or after 1st April 2001, then you have to take your actual cost, multiply it cost inflation index for the year of transfer numerator divided by cost inflation index for the year in which you have purchased the asset. And cost inflation index for these 2 years you have to mandatorily remember, guys. That is 1-2 is a base year 100 and 2021, which is our previous year, 301. If in between any years, they will give in the question. You need not worry. Then cost of improvement. So as I already told, once I have purchased the asset, if I have incurred any capital expenditure for that to improve it, then it is called cost of improvement. If I have incurred any cost of improvement prior to 1st April 2001, it will be considered as nil. If I have incurred anything after that, I can reduce it. If it is a long-term asset, I can reduce index cost of acquisition. Clear? So that is what. How to calculate indexation? Same like my cost of acquisition. Next. If there is no cost incurred, fourth point I am reading, if there is no cost incurred, then the cost of acquisition will be nil. Then fifth point, in case of gift, will, partition or amalgamation, asset passes from one person to another person. Is it a transfer, sir? No. And when the other person who has received it, if he transfers, it is a capital gain. But what will be the cost to him? Cost to the previous owner. Cost to the previous owner. So to decide whether the asset is a long term or short term, what period of holding we will consider? The period of holding of the receiver of the asset. We don't consider the period of holding of the previous owner. And the indexation is also from the day the person became the owner, from that day we will count. Clear? That is what is given in fifth point. Sixth point, if you have received any advance money and if you have forfeited it, and you have not transferred the asset. Okay, in that case it is taxable for you. But when you have received that advance money and forfeited, we have to see it. If you have done it before 1st April 2014, then it has to be reduced. Whatever advance money you have received and forfeited has to be reduced from your cost of acquisition before indexation. Agree? Sir, what if I have received advance money and forfeited after 1st April 2014? Then it will straight away be taxable as income from other sources. Income from other sources. Clear? So any one effect will come, not both. Next, if there is any notional transfer on the case of goodwill, in the case of admission, retirement, death and all, that will not amount to transfer. Clear? Chalo. Next, if debentures are converted into stock or shares, it is not a transfer. But tomorrow when shares are sold, that is a transfer. Sir, what is the cost of acquisition in that case? Whatever amount you have paid to purchase debentures, that is your cost of acquisition. Agree? So, and period of holding and indexation is only for the period you have held the equity shares. You don't take into consideration the period of holding of debentures. Agree? Next, 9th point will be, if any preference shares is converted into equity shares, it is not a transfer. But when you transfer this equity shares, it is a capital. It is a transfer and you have to pay capital gains on that. But, sir, what is the cost of acquisition? Cost of acquisition of preference shares. Okay. Period of holding includes the period of holding of the preference shares also. So, period of holding will be period of holding of preference share plus equity shares. It is like that. Agree? Next. So, if any capital asset is converted into stock, it is a transfer. So, what is the sale consideration? The fair market value of capital asset on the date of transfer. When will I pay tax? In the year in which the stock is sold. Clear? Then, if compulsory acquisition, we already discussed. If there is a compulsory acquisition, transfer will happen in the year in which compulsory acquisition has happened. But the tax will be paid when we actually receive the first installment. Clear? Then any compensation or enhanced compensation received by an individual HUF on the transfer of agriculture land in specified area, that is urban area, is exempt under section 1037. Then enhanced compensation, if it is received later, I have already received normal compensation, enhanced compensation, in that case full it will be taxable without reducing cost of acquisition, because cost of acquisition I would have already reduced while calculating capital gains on normal compensation. Then redemption of preference share, not conversion. Redemption of preference shares amounts to transfer. Okay, sir. So now special provision, some special provision. So section 32 is talks about depreciation in PGBP8. Agree? So section 32 fails in two situations: when all the assets in the block are sold or there is no value in the block. In that case, section 32 will fail and immediately section 50 will come into picture. So 50 will compute short-term capital gain or short-term capital loss in case of section 32 fails. And there is no question of long-term here. Always short-term. Don't even see the period of holding here. So how do we calculate? Format has been given. Take full value of sale consideration. From that we have to reduce three things. What are those? Expenses on transfer, opening WDV, that is at the beginning of the year, plus another third one is additions to the block if any. And for these additions, don't segregate less than 180 days, more than 180, do nothing. Okay, straight away whatever additions you have made, purchases you have made, take it. Then slump sale. When entire undertaking is sold without assigning values for a particular asset, it is called slump sale. So how to calculate tax liability in that case is given in 50B. So when the entire company is sold, we will assume undertaking itself as asset. So if the undertaking is held by me for more than 36 months, it is a long term, if not short term. Sir, what will be the cost of acquisition? Should we calculate the cost of acquisition of each asset? No. Calculate the net worth of the company, that is total assets minus liabilities. So that will be the cost of acquisition on the date of transfer. Agree? And no question of indexation here. No question of indexation, and you should not revalue the assets. As it is at book value, you have to consider. Next, computation of capital gains in case of real estate transaction. That is, if you are holding any asset which is land or building, which is a capital asset for you, if you are selling that for a less than stamp duty value, then stamp duty value will be considered as full value of sale consideration. But up to 10% difference is allowed. That is, if the difference between actual sale consideration and stamp duty value, if the difference is up to 10%, still we will take actual sale consideration only as your full value of sale consideration. If the difference is more than 10%, then we will take stamp duty value. Agree? So normally we will take stamp duty value if it is more than actual sale consideration. But if the assessee tells no sir, my stamp duty value is very less, you have given more, in that case you can refer the case for valuation officer, and if that valuation officer give the value less than stamp duty value, then we will adopt that only as full value of sale consideration. Same concept is applicable under that PGBP under section 43CA if land or building is held as stock by a real estate person. Same concept. Clear? Next, coming to exemptions, guys. Exemptions I have tried to simplify as much as possible, so please pay attention, it's very important. 54 is applicable only for individual HUF. Long-term residential house should be transferred and it should be invested in residential house. Agree? Next, 54B applicable to individual HUF. Agriculture land should be sold and it should be invested in agriculture land. Then 54D, any assessee applicable. Then compulsory acquisition of land or building forming part of industrial undertaking should be transferred and it should be invested where? Land, building, or for the purpose of industrial undertaking, existing or newly set up. Clear? Then 54EC, it is applicable for any assessee. Long-term capital asset being land or building should be sold. 2. Which asset I should invest? Specified bonds of REC, PFC, IRFC and NHI. Agree? Then 54EE, applicable for any assessee. The asset transferred should be any long-term capital asset and it should be invested in units of specified funds. Agree? Then 54G, any assessee, and we are shifting our industrial undertaking from urban area to non-urban area. Okay. 54GA, applicable to any assessee, shifting is from urban area to special economic zone. In all this case, what is the amount of exemption? Cost of new asset or the amount of gross capital gain, whichever is lower. And only in this case, two case, we have to add for cost of new asset the cost of shifting also or expenses of shifting also. Clear? Coming to last two sections, these are some special sections, 54F and GB, if applicable for individual and HUF. So 54F, long-term capital asset should be transferred, but it should not be a residential house. But in which asset you will invest? Residential house. Agree? 54GB, long-term residential property should be transferred and you will invest in the equity shares of a eligible company or eligible startup. Okay. But that eligible company or startup should utilize that amount, whatever I have invested in the shares, to purchase a new asset within 1 year. Agree? Sir, what is the amount of exemption in these two cases? Both 54F and GB. If the cost of new asset is more than net sale consideration, NSC means net sale consideration, then whole capital gain, or else you have to use this formula. That is cost of new asset divided by net sale consideration into gross long-term capital gain. This is when your cost of new asset is less than net sale consideration. Clear? Then important shortcuts to remember. See, there is a lock-in period for few assets. Whatever new asset you are purchasing, there is a lock-in period. That is, you have to hold it at least for 3 years or 5 years. Agree? So which is this? You can see this note. Lock-in period for a new asset is 5 years for section 54EC and GB. Okay, for all other section it is 3 years. You have to hold it for that many years. Sir, what if I sell that assets within that respective lock-in period? Then whatever exemption has been claimed from you will be withdrawn and it will be taxable in 2 ways. Okay, first way is whatever exemption you have already claimed will be straight away taxed. And that is applicable under which section? 54EC, EE, GB and F. Agree? For the balance 3 section, that is for 54, 54B and D, if you have sold the asset within 3 years, then whatever exemption you have already claimed will be reduced from the cost of new asset while calculating capital gain before indexation. Clear? Then applicability of section individual HUF is applicable section 54B, F, GB. These 4 sections are applicable only for individual HUF and balance sections are applicable for everyone. Okay, and you can observe these sections are related somewhere to residential house or agriculture land. So it will be applicable only for individual HUF. Then which type of asset should be transferred? That is old asset. So for section 54EC, EE, F, GB, it is only long-term capital asset. That is only when you are transferred long-term asset, you can claim exemption under this respective section. Whereas for the balance sections, it can be long-term also, short-term also. Clear guys? We are done.